Welcome to episode 64 of Pineapples and Thorns. I'm Kat, and with me today is Fado.
Greetings.
How are you, Fado?
All right.
We are joined today by the one and only iTzu, former world champion with Tribe Gaming and content creator. Your clan's history is pretty much a who's who of Clash of Clans. Welcome, iTzu.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we're just going to jump right in, and out of respect for your time, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Can you walk us through your Clash history, where you started playing, what town hall is currently your favorite to play, and how many accounts you have?
I've started with Clash of Clans a long time ago, where I kind of was able to see the esports scene grow in Clash of Clans and was part of the player side back then. And then over that time, I transferred from being a pro player into the caster, more content creation role. And that's kind of where I am right now.
Wonderful. So most people who follow you are probably aware of your history. You played with Dark Looters, and you had League and ESL play. Can you talk a little bit about your League pro career?
With the Dark Looters back then, there was mainly one big community league out there, which was the Champions War League.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much it. There were not that many community events as we have right now. And back then we won the first and the second season pretty much undefeated. But at the same time, having such a run was really time consuming. So a lot of players retired after the second season from Dark Looters, and that was somewhat the first end, I would call it. But then with the World Championship coming in, we kind of had the Dark Looters, or some of them, coming back, playing again together, and forming different teams, like splitting up over time and playing in big competitions in the ESL play and stuff like that. So that's pretty much how everything started. And at some point, this transferred over into being part of Tribe Gaming, as I have met Chief Pat, the CEO of Tribe Gaming, in one of the live events of Supercell, where we actually were part of the showcase of a bidder base level back then. And we matched up against each other in the finals of that event. So we had some history back then, and had some chats from time to time. And when Supercell announced that there is esports within Clash of Clans, we were chatting again and talking about the possible future of Clash esports and if it has potential and stuff. And then somehow ended up in his team. So that's kind of how that went.
Nice. So were you always a competitive person, or did Clash of Clans itself bring that aspect of your personality forward?
I would say I was always a competitive person who tried to push for possibly highest results. That was already the case in some other games I played back then, like League of Legends, for example, where I kind of played on somewhat of a high level. I guess otherwise, I have not had that many games I committed to. So I feel like Clash of Clans is the one game where I've committed to the most time. And now I've turned this into a living.
So looking back towards the original Champions War League, do you have a favorite memory of that time, like a favorite war or victory?
Good question. I feel like winning the first World Championship, winning the first season of the Champions War League was the greatest memory, because back then it was my and our first event really in person, where we had to deliver with Supercell. And just knowing the pressure and the stress going into this and everything was just pretty crazy. And I feel like as well, back that time, I might have been on my highest level player-wise, where I've built a lot of bases. I was known for my base building. Offense-wise, I think I had one of the highest hit rates. So just overall was a really good season then for us as a clan and for me as a player.
If I can ask, what town hall level were you at when CWL Season 1 happened?
I think it was Town Hall level 11, I believe it was.
Mhm.
It was 2016, I believe. So something like that. It was back then for sure when the Inferno Towers did block healing, and that was a whole different game. I mean, that if everyone is saying right now Town of 15 is hard, that was hard back then. Like that was really rough getting those 3 stars in, and back then we had the kind of the meta of where really rarely we have seen 10 versus 10 3-stars. Tower 9 versus Tower 9 was manageable, and you most of the time get the Tower 9s cleared. But 10 versus 10 3-stars were kind of rare, and most of the time it was the job of the Tower 11s to actually dip down. And then depending on how well your Tower 10s did, you had some shots at 11 versus 11, but that happened really rarely. But it was a different time, I would say, back then. But it had quite some fun aspects as well.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you were ever also warring in Dark Looters Z back then, but I was in Bad Intentions with Crazy Ryan at the time, and so I got to see like what he became a pro player, and I got to see what a pro player could do. And I was just a 10v11 guy, and not a very good one. And it was just really interesting to see that level of play in CWL.
Yeah, I think there were some players in there who are still around or who's were in the scene for a very long time. So we had some really crazy players back then spread out into the different clans. So I think it was kind of really the starting point for the Clash esports scene, even though we had no Clash Worlds or whatever just yet, but still just the base community was created back then. And I can still remember the videos of power banging. It was just always amazing to watch those. Always watching those, and at some point I was in them, being a player, and it just felt unreal back then. It was kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of leads into my next question. Do you have a favorite era, quote unquote, of Clash of Clans? So whether it was 9, 10, 11, 15?
Well, that is a hard question. I think if you would have asked me that in the beginning of Town of 15, I would have said Town of 15 for sure. Because back in the end of Town of 14, it was the opinion the game is way too easy, it's no fun whatsoever. But now with having Town of 15 around for quite some time, I have the opinion that, or at least as a content creator now, more and less as a pro player, for me it's more fun if I can goof around. If I can make strategies work, which are looking impossible, like Barge and stuff like that, which for the pro scene is not really helpful. But for content creation, it's crazy how many opportunities you have. If you want to do now a Barge attack on Town of 15, it's you're doing a nice farming attack, but this was never a 3-star. So yeah, it's a tough question overall. I think answering this as a content creator, I would say Town of 14. Answering this as a pro player, I would say Town of 15.
Do you have a favorite update in the game? For example, do you think the game would still be around without Clan Wars? That was huge, right?
Yeah, I think it was a huge update for sure. I think it was actually before my time where Clan Wars were introduced. I started, I think, shortly after that, or at least really dived really deep into the game. Mm-hmm. So I guess the update, which was one of the biggest, I think there's 2 actually. I have to mention. Which first off is the Clan War League, which kind of started the World Championship, and then the update itself, where a lot of good changes were happening, was Project Blue Skies, where this really time intense legend mode was turned into something which was really truly skill based. So I think that has to be my favorite update itself, where the Clan War Leagues was overall leading into a lot of cool events. But the update itself, I'm not sure. I guess that would be then my number 2.
Yeah. I mean, the days when, if you were in Legends and you're stuck in the clouds waiting for hours for a match, that was crazy. So it's definitely a lot nicer to get your attacks in during the day for sure. What was it like? We know, as a content creator, your perspective on that, but what was it like for you as a player to participate in those early Worlds matches?
I mean, back then it was completely different. I mean, that's a common phrase to use, but in the World Championship in the early days, it was really, you had a lot of more time to plan. I remember back then with the live events we had when we were in Poland, it was that we had multiple hours to plan versus the bases. And if you think about that now, like having multiple hours to plan versus bases, it's like, come on, you have 8 minutes now and that's it. And so the times have changed overall. And I feel like the players have gotten just so much better. For example, with this way better legend system, I think the players itself do way less mistakes, recover way better their attacks. So I have to say I liked it better earlier, where the focus is more on the planning and the team aspect. Because right now it does feel a lot of times that, for example, if you have Navi, I'm not sure how much it matters that they really work together as a team, or if it's even needed, or if it's just like 5 really good players just getting put together who are working incredible in Legend League, for example, and they're just doing kind of pro matches in Legend style, if you know what I mean. So I really like this team aspect, the planning together, the like combining of wisdom back then, where you have not tried everything. And I think that was really, really the one thing which I like the most about participating in those earlier World Championship matches.
Yeah, because it does seem like, nowadays that some of the players kind of shift from team to team, and they don't have that time to develop that, close-knit camaraderie and knowledge of each other. Well, I know that so-and-so is going to be able to triple for sure, or, like understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think that you always have to rely on your team, but it's not that you really go through different plans at the moment. At least that's what I guess. We cannot really hear their voice chats. I hope that at some point that's possible, where you have maybe more the in-depth information about how the teams really work. But I feel a lot of times from the outside it looks like that you have just 5 individual really strong players and not like a big team, if that makes sense. And this is something which I feel like was more the case earlier. If I remember back then, when we played the World Championship with Tribe Gaming, and we were sitting in those planning rooms that we had, we were sitting there, as I said, for like hours, going through different plans. We all had like different approaches where we were specializing in. Like the one guy did really well, like an Electron. The next one did a Queen Charge really well. The next one did a Blizzard or something really well. And then we really like went through our list of strategies and like tried to apply that to the bases and went through that. And well, then something has worked or not, kind of. But I feel like right now it's more like, well, you're specializing a lot of times into one strategy and kind of force it onto the base. As those players are right now are just so good. I mean, it's crazy seeing some of those matches in the World Championship, how things are going completely wrong.
Oh, yes.
And they're still getting recovered, which is like unhuman sometimes. And so
I saw that one with Agent 33 this morning, where his battle drill just kept going and going.
That was, I mean, how can they save those? It just feels crazy. It feels like sometimes they're playing a different game, but it's just like this practice which is making them so good. And I feel this is something where, as well, at some time, I guess we're getting there in the future as well in this podcast, but where I feel like at some point, how do new players come like back up, because they cannot really get 10,000s of hours of playtime out of nowhere, so they have to spend that. But then again, the other players are just like keep pulling ahead. So I feel like I really don't know how things are going to work out in the future, but the players are just getting too good. That's basically it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those community leagues really sort of help train up people who maybe want to make that leap to the ESL scene.
Yes, fully agree.
Yeah. So looking back at your league play or world play, do you have somebody that you consider your greatest rivalry back then?
Back then, I think as Dark Ludus was probably War Whales. I think they were a really, really good clan as well. And that might be the biggest rivalry we really had. In the World Championship, I'm not sure. I mean, I was 1 year where we made it to finals. During that year, was the first ever World Championship. So I don't think there was really, I don't think that there were already really rivalry building up.
Right.
And in the second year, we did not make it. So yeah, from my perspective, I have to more talk about the Champions Ball League, as I guess Warways was then
Yeah.
the one thing which comes closest.
So when you retire, I guess semi-retired from competitive and professional play, do you stay in touch with your former clanmates at all?
Yeah, I'm still in touch with some of them, especially from the leadership back then.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm still casting until today with like Maxi, for example, from time to time.
Right.
And yeah, it's I don't know, a bond which was created during that time, which I don't think is going to be that easily, I don't know, like gone over time.
Mhm.
It is really amazing, like, you know, the friendships that you build up by playing this a game. Like, I don't know if other games really give that same sense of interaction as Clash of Clans, especially if you're in league play and you really, you know, spending a lot of time with people, build up those
Yeah.
friendships. So, what are some of the challenges that you see in esports for Clash of Clans facing in the future? Do you think it's sustainable long term?
This is the one thing which I already noticed. I just think the players are becoming too good at the game. That's pretty much it. Because we have the issue already right now with Clash of Clans being in a tricky situation where they kind of have to decide balance-wise, what are they going to do? Are they going to balance for? It's not even like 1% of the player base, because even within the competitive community itself, there's a huge gap between teams like Navi, Tribe, for example, and then like regular tournament teams. I mean, teams which are playing in those tournaments, they're trying, they're having fun with that, but still never making it to playoffs, for example. I mean, those are teams which are part of the competitive community as well, right? So it is just so big, the difference between those players and then the top teams, that the question now is, what about the difference between the top teams or even the competitive teams which are never getting to playoffs and the casuals, the super casuals, or even the casuals who are trying to copy strategies from YouTube but never getting it done because it's just way too hard. So what is the solution for that? And I feel like this is something which, not specifically Clash Esports, is a problem. It's more like about the future of the game in general. Like, what is going to be the answer for that? Because I can just talk for myself that even for myself, sometimes the game is really confusing. Offensive rage, defensive rage. What is going on there? What is possibly happening with the Town Hall 16? Is it getting even more confusing? Let's say the spell tower is getting you a new level and you have a defensive heal spell, a skeleton spell, whatever. So there's going to be even more going on the map, and I feel like it is just getting more and more chaotic. So the first thing, just making it understandable for the players to what actually is going on the screen, and then making it that, well, players who are, well, actually not bad, way above average, might be able to get 1 3-star a day at least in Legends, because I have some players in my community clan who are literally not bad. I mean, on Town of 15 already, if you get from time to time a 3-star already, you're, I guess, way above average, and they sometimes cannot get a 3-star in 1 week, which is obviously then a really bad week for them, but still, this is sometimes happening. And I feel like this is really not motivating for them at all. And then Supercell has to kind of like go into the numbers and see what is going on. Like, is it actually that the players are loving the game that much that they don't care if they don't have the best hit rate? Or if they look at Town of 15, the player base, do Town of 15 players leave the game because they don't have success? Or do they then generate like create another account and start the game new again? Because again, I think like this game is just super popular. It won't die anytime soon. I'm pretty sure about that. But it's about, what about the end game content and how hard it is? I feel like this is the biggest issue Supercell or Clash of Clans in general has to face in the future. It's as well connected to esports, because I mean, for the pros, the harder the better, of like the top teams where we hear the voices the most. And obviously, in like for YouTube videos, we always see those top teams mentioned. I mean, we don't watch YouTube videos about like teams which never make it to playoffs. We always watch those Navi, those Tribe, those MS Esports matches, and they make it look easy. But this is not representative for the competitive community. So yeah, it's a tricky situation, and I will be honest, I have no answer on or even suggestion how to solve that. The only thing I could think of maybe is maybe an esports mode where you can like set up, okay, my troops are dealing 10% less damage or something. But even that would be not optimal, because then what about Legend League? do all of the pros cannot really practice in Legend anymore because they're going to play on a different set
Right.
in pro matches compared to Legends? Like, what's going on there? So I really have no answer to this question, but I feel like this is a question which has to be answered at some point.
Yeah, that is a tough place for Supercell to be in, because, at what town hall are people actually having the most fun? And yes, as an average player, it is fun to triple, So at Town Hall 15, if I'm not tripling in War and I'm struggling to triple in Legends, if Town Hall 16 drops, do I say, well, I'm not going to bother moving up because, that's going to be so much harder. There's a frustration level for people, I think.
Yeah.
So how closely do you work with the development team? For example, do they ask you to test new troops and provide input on how to tweak existing traps and defenses?
I will not go into detail. I will just answer this with a yes, as I'm not sure how much I can talk about this, but
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I understand there's confidentiality and all that stuff. So during the stream today, you mentioned that heal spells need a bit of a rework. There was a hybrid attack going on. Do you think a new level for them would help make attacks such as hybrid more viable?
I am not sure, because I feel like the problem is more that there's some areas on Town 15, like base-wise, that are just too much damage. But if you balance the heal spell for those areas, they're going to be too strong in every other place of the of the base. So I am not sure what is best. Maybe, I don't know, maybe just nerf the Rage Tower into ground or rework it, or I don't know what exactly. But in general, just having too much damage to handle feels like a big issue for a lot of players. And like, for example, it's kind of killing the Queen Charge strategy in general for anyone who's not at the highest level. I mean, I'm doing now YouTube guides on like strategy guides, as this is what type of content I'm concentrating on for a long time now for a different tower level. And I feel like the community where I'm catering to, I would put them kind of in between of tournament players, but they're not casuals. I mean, every casual, like really hardcore casual, would not even watch a YouTube video. They don't even know that the Clash is on YouTube, I guess. But they are the players who are looking for new strategies, trying things out, having fun trying those out. And I feel like for this community, one of the most fun strategies were in the past, I've as well had the biggest success with videos like view-wise and stuff, was, for example, Queen Charge Hybrid. There was a strategy with Queen Charge Hybrid that it is not too hard, it is not too easy. At the same time, it's including a Queen Charge, which is in fact a really fun strategy. I mean, it's not only because it's really good, but as well it's because fun. This is why so many pros are playing it for such a long time. Let's say Super Archer Blimp. It's strong as well, but a lot of people don't play it for that long because it's at some time getting boring for those high-level players. The same thing with Electro Dragons. So I feel like removing the option of playing the strategy for a big part of the community, because we're talking now about the players who are interested in trying out strategies, but as well inside the competitive community, the players, the teams which are never reaching playoffs. I would really, I'm pretty safe that most of those players can't really execute Queen Charges either. So you're kind of removing the option of playing the strategy for a lot of players just because of, for example, the Rage Tower. So yeah, but then again, we're getting back to the question of balancing, and I guess this is right now a really hot topic.
Yeah, so want to shift focus a little bit more to the content creation that you're up to these days, iTzu, and how did it was getting into content creation a factor in your retirement?
Yes, and yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because I mean, back then at the end of what was it? I think 2020. 2019 was the first World Championship. 2020 was the year where we have not made it to the World Championship. And at the end of that, Super Seka knew that I'm not too happy with the position we were in, like for me, with the team and stuff. But they kind of know my passion for the game and esports in general. So they kind of made the suggestion, or asked me, okay, if you would actually stop playing as a pro player, would you be interested in becoming a caster or trying it out? And back then it was really a tough question because, I mean, I was being a player for quite a long time. I mean, 2 years in the World Championship. Before that, in the in the Champions War League and stuff like that. So it was a really tough question. But then in the end, again, it was with content creation that as a caster you can concentrate more on content creation because you don't have to like practice non-stop and you don't have to hold back information. I mean, it would be kind of stupid if we prepare a strategy and I just do a video about it on YouTube. Yeah, guys, by the way, the super witches right now, that is really, really secret broken. Like, it is crazy. But trust me, we don't use it in next World Championship. We don't have to do anything. I mean, just trust me on that one. No, but like sometimes I had to hold back information, like actually the super witch strategy, for example, with Tribe back then. And it just felt always wrong, but at the same time it was necessary for me as a player to like not show everything already. And yeah, that was as well a reason. And I mean, this is my living. I'm full-time content creation. And as long as you're not winning every single World Championship, casting, I have learned that now, is paid pretty well. I mean, in pretty much every game which I have now heard about is the payment, as long as you're not really getting every time, as I said, like top 3 or something World Championship, the caster is mostly getting more money, which is pretty crazy to learn that about. And well, doing this as a job, I have to think about that as well. And then all of those things together kind of made me decide to then stop being a player for Tribe and stop being a competitive player in general and just joining the full content creation and casting team.
Tribe kind of became a birthplace of big time casters, right? You got Lex and Carbon Finn, for instance, and you. So, I mean, is it fun for you? What's the most fun of creating content?
I think everyone has its own enjoyment. I think, for example, Eric and Lexnos are doing a lot of like the match casting. For me, it is fun, but I don't want to overdo it, if that makes sense. I just still like to play the game. And that's what I'm trying to create content around. For me, it was never the thing, okay, I try to grow as big as possible because then I would do more casual content, kind of like comparable to judo. But I always wanted to just play the game, play and share high-level content, create guides, and improve the gameplay of my viewers, because my overall goal is with the videos, if you're better in the game or better at whatever, it doesn't matter if it's a game or in live, if you're better at something, it's more fun. I mean, you would never go and ride a bike when you fall every 10 meters. So that's not really fun. But if you could cross bike and drive from, mountains or whatever, going crazy here. But if you could do all of that, that's probably way more fun. And that's kind of the idea behind my guides, where I'm trying to share as many different ideas, as many different strategies for everyone to find something and having, in the end, more fun in the game.
Mm-hmm. Is there a part of content creation you wish you could hire someone else to do? I mean, is there a something that's just not very fun for you?
I think there's nothing specific. It is more the fact that you don't have any off days, except if you are putting more work in. So, for example, like if you go to work normally, you have 5 days of work and then 2 free days. Mm-hmm. For me as content creator, if I upload every single day 2 videos and stream and cast and like do all of that together, it's like doing that every single day. Because let's say I want to have some off days, then I would need to work twice as much the other days to kind of create this free room, as long as I don't want to quit the daily uploads. And I feel like there are some days, I mean, it's not happening every time or every week or something, but it's happening from time to time that you just don't want to play the game and you want to do something different. But then again, you kind of have to, because, well, you need to create content. And this is then again, especially with my type of content, sometimes really tricky, because Clash of Clans content creation, if you're uploading your own attacks, is giving you no second chances. What I mean by that is that you are really limited in how much you can play Clash of Clans on the highest level. Clan Wars, 2 attacks every 24 hours. If you mess them up, well, have fun waiting another 24 hours because you won't get your video out. Legend League, 8 attacks, each account, that's it. Otherwise, you're done. If you mess that up, you can have your video waiting. Clan War League is even worse. 7 attacks during the first week of the month. If you mess those up, an entire video is pretty much crap. So I'm kind of forced to play and stay at a high level, even though sometimes you don't have fun. I feel like that, for me specifically, is the least fun part sometimes, if I have like a motivation hole, I guess.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
So you mentioned your community clan, and you mentioned obviously warring in CWL and in your randoms. Do you how much time do you get to actually play without worrying about content creation, or is basically everything you're doing in the game, even in your community clan, etc., for the purpose of creating content?
I think most of the time that as I said, I'm trying to play the game, and the content I'm uploading is more about me playing the game and less about, for example, pro matches. Like some content creators are just uploading pro matches.
Mhm.
And if I would do that, I'm not sure how much I would have time to play the game or how much I would be invested in playing the game. But for me, I'm nonstop uploading me playing in Legends, me pushing in Legends. People are always asking me to push again in Legends, try to go with that run spot. Even though this is way out of reach for me right now, but still, like they're like being able to grind with me through their pushing phase is a lot of fun for them. So they're asking for that, like me uploading attacks of myself, doing clan week, whatever. So I'm still playing the game quite a bit, and I guess exactly that is the reason why I'm sometimes exhausted from the game, because, well, it's really hard then to take a break.
Mm-hmm. So, beside Clash, do you create any other content for other games? For instance, whether it's a Supercell game or a different game?
At the moment, I have started like streaming daily now, and since, as I said, Clash is kind of limited with the amount you can stream it or cover it in general with like content, because your legend attacks and everything is limited. I started streaming Dead by Daylight before I start with my Clash content in the evening. I'm not sure just yet. I will just see how that works out and see if then I will add some other games in the future. Personally, I play like League of Legends from time to time and stuff like that. And I don't know, let's just hope that at some point maybe there's going to be new games from Supercell, from other companies, which are shaking things up, because I feel like we have not really had not really a good game, but like a game which is different. I feel like most of the games which are coming out at the moment are like reworks of current systems, like Battle Royale or things like that, but in a new version, but nothing really completely new. So I just hope for maybe something new in the future, and otherwise for now it's just Clash of Clans and then some other games to maybe stream a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And so, when COVID hit, there was a big pause on the entire world. And that, of course, in the Clash world meant that there were at least a couple years where worlds were held with people sitting in masks at their own desks at home and whatnot. But what was it like for you and the content creation team to show back up at Worlds last year?
That was amazing. And I think I have forgotten about saying that when you asked me about why I actually became a caster. And that was because the first year of the World Championship, where we qualified during the first qualifier right from the beginning, I was invited as an expert to kind of fly back to the event every single month. And that was just so much fun for me, like just the live events in general, that I was really sad that we, well, did not really had too many of them. And as well, not making it to some of them, like with my team back then. And then my decision was like, wait a second, when I'm the caster, I'm on every single event. So that was as well like taken into consideration for my decision. And so yeah, long story, but like the short answer is pretty much, for me, it's like the live events are the biggest deal. Like this is why I love Clash. Like doing all those live events, this is kind of what's the most fun in my opinion. And everyone who has the opportunity of ever going to one of those live events, I can only recommend that.
Great. So as a caster though, so you get to go, you get to you get to go places, you get to be, a premium guest of Supercell's basically for all this. How do you prepare for that? Like, okay, you've got today 8 matches, right? And obviously, you're going to be paired with people. You're moving in and out with different partners, etc. Sometimes. And how does that preparation take place for you?
I don't have to prepare that much, if I'm completely honest, because I feel like every caster has their own identity. So, for example, I am not that person who is entertaining the people and like hype people up and like scream into the microphone. That's just not me. And I don't think that Supercell or anyone would expect that from me. Okay, maybe some people, but there are always haters out there, so whatever. But normally, I'm not that type of caster. I'm more like the person who is breaking things down, giving background numbers, explaining things and stuff like that. And the reason why I don't really have to prepare is because I'm pretty much preparing every single second of my life is a little bit over the top, but a lot of time of my life where I've played the game, look up stats, take a look at which strategy is the most used at which point, which player has the highest hit rate, and so on. So those are all things which I have most of the time in my head. With I don't know why. I guess I should have tried to deliver this or like came up with this earlier back in school. But somehow I can remember a lot of things about Clash of Clans, bases, stats, everything. Like it isn't really hard for me to remember those. This was, by the way, back then in my player time, a really big issue for me because teams kept baiting me because they knew about like me remembering bases. They just used bases like 1 year ago, and then he will remember it, so let's just bait that entry. And that was a bit problematic for some like from time to time. But like so overall it's not that hard for me to remember those stats for some reason. And this is kind of what my role in the caster team is. So I don't have to prepare specifically, it's more like a non-stop preparation phase overall, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always fun watching you on a stream and say, "Oh, here's a base I built," and that happens so often. So, so you mentioned that you're now full time. Your job is content creation. How is this your career path as far out as you can see it, or are you saying, "Well, I'll give this 5 or 10 years and then see where maybe go back to doing something in a boring office like the chump you're talking to now does"?
Well, I have actually no clue. I mean, if it's possible, I would like to. I think at this stage, I would like to do this for the next 5 or 10 years. But I feel like with content creation, yes, it's a lot of work of keeping your position, but being in that position as well is a little bit of luck as well. And I just hope that I keep having this type of luck for the future and be able to keep going with that. I'm not sure if I would go like the next 5 to 10 years content creation with Clash of Clans, but just doing it in general, that would be something nice.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. We're gonna shift gears and maybe talk about the game more in general now. And I just have a couple questions left. So, a year into the Clan Capital experience, do you have any thoughts on it? On either how you can get people, how Supercell could make people get a little more excited about it again, or what sort of changes you would come up with for it?
First off, I would love Supercell to share some numbers because, I mean, obviously, I have some numbers in general for Clash of Clans, which are under NDA. But as well, there's a lot of numbers which, in general, I would just like to know, and I would like Supercell to share because that wouldn't hurt anyone, and it would just make some players understand certain decisions. Because I want to repeat that I don't have any numbers for this one, but I guess Clan Capital is way more popular than a lot of people would think. The reason, though, why I feel like a lot of people think that it's kind of a dead mode is because it is not really easy to mess how many players are actually playing the mode, because most players are just looking for YouTube views and how those work, and then judging based on that on how many players are actually playing the game and stuff like that. So, for example, I think Clash of Clans did the biggest game for Supercell, even though they might not turn the most views. for Clash YouTubers. Might be Brawl Stars being right now bigger on YouTube or something, doesn't mean that they have more players. That's like the first thing for this answer. So right now, I don't know if Clan Capital is dead, but just based on what I would guess, is that it's low key one of the most used, or most played things in the game, but it's just super casual. And I don't think that this type of player is actually watching up YouTube videos, and this is why it kind of seems like being a dead mode, because on YouTube it's not really working that well. Whoever is doing Clan Capital content is kind of like not getting the most views. So it kind of seems like that it is not doing that great. So with this introduction to the answer, or to my answer for the question, I would say that Supercell does not need to change that much. For sure, I would not change the main mode, which might be surprising now to some because I always criticize it. But I think they should keep this casual attitude when it comes down to the trophies and whatever in Clan Capital, but kind of introduce a mode as Power League, for example, in Brawl Stars, where they have a separate mode for everyone who wants to try hard. And this mode could be then, I don't know, 3 versus 3, 5 versus 5, whatever, but it should be for sure a smaller team mode. And this one could be then for all the sweaty tryhards out there who are trying to push them as high as possible. But the overall mode right now with the trophies and everything and having to face 50 players every single weekend in the clan, which is not realistic at all. I don't know about you guys, but we cannot have 50 accounts being active every single weekend. Sometimes people don't have time or not motivated for that mode. It is always the same thing. And so I just think it's not realistic to having a really competitive mode based on a 50v50 player base. So just keep it as it is with the casual level, because I think it's quite big, or bigger than a lot of people expect or would think. Again, I don't have numbers on that one. It's just speculation. But I would just add another mode, which then could be for all of those competitive players. This is maybe what I would change. And I think those videos would then be more clicked on YouTube.
Interesting. And then I know that I can't remember how long it's been, but there was a scenery that came out. I must say it's probably about a year and a half ago, where in one of your videos you said, well, this is strictly a pay-to-play scenery, meaning the background of the scenery made it so difficult to actually notice defenses. So do you have a favorite? Are you a big collector of sceneries and skins, or are you just kind of like, meh?
Yeah, I'm kind of have an addiction to skins, so I might have bought all of them. So, I mean, my favorite scenery, even though the shadow scenery might be that you have small advantage or something, I think my favorite scenery right now in the game is actually one of the newer ones, the new Goblin scenery. I think I just love that. I feel like every single time you're looking at, you're finding something new, like a goblin diving into gold or a goblin doing something funny, and at the same time, it's not as distracting maybe as for example the newest scenery with the Clashversary challenge, the scenery of that. I don't know, it's just too bright for me, I guess, or too flashy. But overall I would say the Goblin scenery right now is my favorite one. Otherwise, honorable mentions would be, I think, the spooky scenery, the Halloween scenery of last year. I like that quite a bit. And just because it has this OG vibe, the pirate scenery, that would be my top 3, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like that one. Did you have any events? So I mean, I guess this is a yes or no. There may be NDAs about this, but I'm going to try and ask this very carefully. But how often are you asked to provide challenge bases?
I was just thinking about if it's NDA or bad or anything. If I guess there is a group which is getting asked, and then first comes first a lot of times, I guess. So, yeah, let's keep it
so we know Yuta's part of that group, and you weren't a big fan of that one, so that's okay.
I mean, one of his challenges was one of the best challenges. I think, I think it was the Clash Fest challenge he did. Was, in my opinion, one of the best challenges we ever had. The last one, well, was a bit harder, but yeah, that's a different topic.
Yeah, it really was a challenge. So I mean, you mentioned this before. So as it stands right now, there was a major, maybe a minor update to Town Hall 15, a few months back, and they released the extra levels for the Eagle and the Scatters and whatnot, and they changed some of the they changed some of the levels, the way things work. Do you think Town Hall 15 is in a good place right now? And I guess from your perspective, you might be answering it both from a pro versus a non-pro perspective.
For pro player right now, I think it's pretty much perfect. Maybe it could be a little bit harder, but otherwise, I think Town Hall 15 right now feels in a really good place. For a content creator, I think it is still way too hard. It just feels like that the last update only affected the hit rate of pros and not of the casuals. And again, I don't know how to change that the pros are not like having the 70-80% hit rate, because this is the crazy thing. If you take a look at the numbers, I think right now some of the teams are at like 60 or even getting to 65% hit rate, which is only 5% off of Town Hall 14. Town Hall 14 was a 70% roundabout. And I feel like if you would tell that anyone out there who is not a pro, they would be like, nah, Town Hall 15 is way harder than Town Hall 14. That you can't even compare that. But the numbers are showing something completely different, which I think is just so crazy. So overall, I don't know. I don't know what to change for the casuals, because I think everything you change would completely break the game then for the pros. But in the end, Supercell has to answer that. What is more important, the less than 1% or the more than 99%, and how to fix that maybe for the pros to make it enjoyable, play the game.
So I this might be a repeat question, and you can feel free to say, I think we've talked about that with heal spells, but if and with what your answer just was, so on the main village, is there one thing you'd like to see them change?
I would not have something specific right now. They have to change. Because as I said, I don't have the answer. Maybe nerf the Rage Tower. That might be the only thing. As it would solve the heal spell as well a little bit. But I think more like for the future, the one thing I would hope for is that we see a new hero with the Town Hall 16. The reason why I hope that is more like a double selfish answer, because first off, I just like having new tools on offense. And second of all, I feel like the hype for a Town Hall is longer when there is something completely new. And even though Rage Tower or like Spell Towers and the Monolith was something new, but for the main player base, how did it really affect you? You would copy a base link from somewhere and most likely never change it again. Yes, you have to attack it, but having something on your own, like a new hero to use, is way more entertaining for a longer time. So the hype would be longer, I think, with having a new hero than, for example, new key defenses. So this is why I kind of hope for a new hero, because as a content creator, I'm like relying on the hype on the game. So that's why I said kind of double selfish. But the one thing I hope as well for is like a hero hall or something, where you cannot really use all 5 heroes at the same time. The reason for that being is that it would just get too messy. I mean, too chaotic. Like 5 heroes manage that, like it's crazy. And the one reason why I like it so much is because all of the players who are not spending insane amount of money to gem their heroes could now then always have 1 hero under upgrade and have 4 heroes to use.
Interesting.
I mean, obviously you would still need to, like, you wouldn't be the fastest to upgrade your hero because you could always have only 1 hero in upgrade. It would be at least something, right? It would be at least something to somewhat solve the issue of being able to upgrade a hero and still have your full army power. But then again, like, there's still a lot of other issues which would need to be solved. But overall, this is the one thing which I hope for the future for the game, which is hopefully being added at some point with Town Hall 16, with whatever, I don't know. But yeah.
So the final question for you today, iTzu. So we've talked a lot about Clash. We've talked a lot about content creation. What about you, the person? What do you enjoy doing when you're not either playing or creating content around Clash of Clans?
Well, playing other games. that would be one answer. Otherwise, trying to make some sport, because I mean I'm mainly sitting, right? So if I would do no sport, I would go back to my old forum where I was like 20 kilogram more.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess that, so like trying to do some of that, and otherwise, yeah, I mean, I got into this because I like playing games, so I still like to do that, even if it's not only Clash, but yeah, that would be my hobbies as well.
Mhm. Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for your time, Kat.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, iTzu. This is the part of the show where we do shout outs. Do you have any person or group that you want to shout out?
More in general, like doing a shout out to remember that having different opinions is fine. I'm saying this specifically because of my opinions on the balance, because I know that obviously the opinion between pro players and for example, like the rest of the clashers or like content creators might be different. So whenever sharing opinions, whenever discussing opinions, always be respectful and respect others' opinions in general.
Definitely. Fado, do you have any shout outs?
Sure. Obviously, I want to shout out iTzu. Thank you. And I know iTzu, you mentioned that it's a 7-day-a-week job, and so for the listeners, we are sitting here recording. Sure, it's a sunny 4:21 in the afternoon for me, but it is almost 10:30 over in Germany. So on a Saturday. So again, thank you so much. And finally, to Trample and his community and the work they do, because their help with Super Hogs has me enjoying the game again. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to shout out iTzu again. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. And also just a shout out in general to content creators who, they work really hard on putting out content and posting it on YouTube. So if you are watching their content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button.
And I'm pretty sure everyone knows code iTzu. So
That's right.
yes.
And thank you everybody for listening. The CFF is a family of clans who love to play various games such as Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, among others. You can send questions or comments to us on Twitter at RedThornCOC. To get more information on our clans, events, and podcasts, join the CFF Discord at discord.gg/clashfiles.